Oh, I'm getting snow blind. I had my sunglasses on earlier and I should have left them on. What's happening, cats? A little bit of winter sports today. We got our first decent snowfall of the season. Probably had about 8 inches, I'm going to guess. I got the snow blower out and I cleaned up this section of driveway because I got the new furnace coming this week and I wanted the delivery guys to be able to get in and out all easier. The sun already melted the sidewalk off this morning. The sun's pretty warm actually. It's fairly comfortable out, so I thought I'd get the little mini bike out and see how it handled in the snow. For the most part it was okay, but it was a little squirrely. It would hit those spots in the lawn where it would just, whoa, hang on. Winter sports was always a big part of my life as a kid. We lived in the Metro Park. It was part of Cleveland Metropolitan Park District at the time, and part of the Hinckley Reservation in Medina County. So not even a quarter of a mile, I would say, from our house was the sled hill. And it was a pretty big sled hill. It went, there was a flat place at the top, right up by the road, just enough to pull off. It wasn't a parking area. It was just enough to pull off and unload your equipment if you had a toboggan or sleds or whatever. And then you had to drive down Parkway down at the bottom in a parking lot down below. And then the hill dropped down, and it went down, at a pretty good slope. And then it didn't really level out, but it kind of just started to level out a little bit for a while. And then it really dropped and went all the way down into the valley. And it was a real wide hill. But over on the right-hand side was kind of a ditch that would form in the winter. And so they had built like a earthen berm all the way down the hill so you didn't go off into the woods, because normally you'd go down the hill, it would kind of drift you towards that ditch if you didn't know how to steer whatever you were on, a sled or a toboggan, and people would end up in that ditch. And over a period of the winter, from different snowfalls, it would start to form moguls in this ditch, and people would go down, and right at the crest of that hill where it dropped down into the valley, there was usually a big mogul, and they would go airborne and come slamming down and shoot down the rest of the hill. One of my first experiences with a toboggan, well, first of all, let me explain to you what a toboggan is. This is an original old toboggan, and that was number 92. It would probably hold about 8 people. It goes all the way down to the floor there. Now that one that I have upstairs is an antique. It's an old one. It's probably originated back in the 1920s, I'm going to guess, in that era, 1950s maybe. But it's been around for a long time, and I got it from the what is now the Cuyahoga Valley National Park District. Being that I was an employee there, they were liquidating a bunch of stuff, and they had these old toboggans they were getting rid of. I think they were asking $20 a piece for them, so I bought 3 of them, and I kept one, and I gave one to each of my older brothers. But if you were on a toboggan and you were going to go down that hill, now toboggans aren't that easy to steer. I was with a group of people, and I don't remember who all they were, but I know my dad was there. And they put me right in the very front of the toboggan where that part curls up. And they said, fold your legs up Indian style and just sit up in there. And then everybody sat behind me, and what you would do is you would just wrap their legs around and tuck their legs in around you, and each person would do that in succession, and then you'd reach down and hang on to the ropes, along the side of the toboggan. and just go for a ride. Now, it was suggested that if you leaned, you could steer the toboggan, but that didn't work very well. The toboggan just kind of took its own course. So you had to kind of line it up when you got on it, give it a shove, and then down you'd go. Everybody would be screaming and hollering as they went. Inevitably, you would end up in that chute or that ditch over on the right-hand side and hit those moguls, wham, wham, and then hit that big one, wham, and then shoot down to the bottom of the hill. Now, on this particular incident that I'll never forget, the toboggan veered off. Once we got to the very bottom of the hill, we were still going at a pretty good clip, and the toboggan veered off into the woods, and we hit a small tree. Boom! Which stopped us instantly, and everybody shoved forward and crammed me into that. Yeah, and it hurt. It knocked the wind out of me, and it crunched me pretty good. Now, I wasn't injured seriously, but I believe I was probably shedding a few tears at my age during that time. But as the years went on, and we became, older, we had those plastic boat things like that you sled in. They're cheap. I think you get them at Walmart. They're a dime a dozen. That was our favorite type of sled. And we could, surf on those. We could lay on our belly on those. We can sit up on them and steer with it. We knew how to steer them. And those things were fast as a whistle, boy. They'd go right down the hill. And we could manage to stay out of that dangerous chute over on the right-hand side. We would, after school almost every day in the winter, when the there was snow on the ground and everything was perfect for sledding, we were the first ones there in the evening. We'd make sure we got our dinner done, did our homework, and then we'd bundle all up, put our stuff on, and we'd grab our sleds and we'd walk a quarter of a mile down to the sled hill. And our buddies would walk from their houses down, and we'd all meet together. And we would sled right down that hill for hours until it was time for us to head home for bed. There was a couple situations when we went there that the whole hill had been compacted from hundreds of people sledding on. Now, the weekends were super busy. People would come from Cleveland and all around to sled on this hill. And it would just get compacted and get very slippery. And it had thawed a little bit, and then it had free-froze and turned almost to ice. We were the only ones there. It was just very dangerous. And if you started at the top, I can't imagine the speed you were going when you hit the bottom. But we did, and it was absolutely frightening. We went on that ice, but again, you were drawn over to that chute on the side, and even if you bailed out, because you knew that chute was deadly, if you bailed out of your sled, you'd still slide all the way to the bottom. It was that icy. So what we would do is we'd go to the far left side of the hill and start our way down, and hopefully by the time we got over the crest, we weren't anywhere near that ditch over on the right-hand side, and we could make it all the way to the bottom, and you'd end up going clear out in the middle of the field because it was so slippery. I'll never forget those days. I mean, we spent so much time there in the winter with our friends, and we'd get frostbitten. We didn't care. Our toes were frozen, our fingers were frozen, but we'd just, one more time. We keep going down that hill. A little later, when I was a teenager, I was on the back of a toboggan with a bunch of friends. Usually I didn't care for the toboggans, I thought they were kind of dangerous. You'd have everybody all locked together with their legs and their arms and everything. And if something were to happen, you were pretty much trapped. You couldn't get out of there. Well, I was on the back, and as we went down the hill and came over the crest, somehow I got knocked off the back of the toboggan. And I slid on my side with my back facing up the hill. Well, behind me, there was another guy on a steel sled, with the hand, you could steer it with the handles, and he was coming down there lickety split, and he was coming right for me, and he swerved as hard as he could, and he put his knee out, and he came sliding right into me, and bam, his knee hit right in the small of my back. It hurt so bad, and it was, I can't explain it, but I was absolutely paralyzed. I could not move my legs. I couldn't get up. I tried getting up. I could drag myself with my arms, but my legs were unresponsive, and I was scared to death. I really thought I was paralyzed, and I thought somebody else was going to come down the hill and hit me again, because the code of conduct on the sled hill is you don't ever hang out on the hill itself. If you crash or if something happens, you get off of there as quick as you can. You head to the side, you head to the woods and get off of that hill, because somebody's sure to hit you and knock you airborne. And I'd seen it happen many times. So I was pretty injured, and I tried dragging myself as far as I could until my buddies came, and they actually had to carry me back up the hill. And at that point, I was still unable to use my legs. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't walk. I thought, man, I got to go to the hospital. And they loaded me into my car and drove me home and helped me get into my bed and kind of left me there. And my dad came in, I remember, and asked me what happened. And I told him, and I said, I can't move my legs. I said, they hit me in the back, and I can't move my legs. Now, you think that he would have taken me straight to the hospital at that time, but no. I don't know. I guess we were on a tight budget, and he didn't want an emergency bill. Just wait until morning and see how you feel. Yeah, so I laid in bed in misery all night. The next day, they did take me to the doctor the following day, and there wasn't any permanent damage or anything, thank God. I was able to start limping around a little bit. I just had a real sore back, and I swear to this day I still have lower back problems because of that incident. My brothers, my one brother, he suffered too. He was on they would get these big truck inner tubes. Now that was another thing. And all the kids would pile on this one big inner tube, and they'd go down the hill, and it would always inevitably end up in that ditch, because you can't steer an inner tube. It would just kind of twirl around, take its own path down the hill. And my brother was on the bottom, and there was like 3 or 4 kids piled on top of him, and they were going down the hill. Well, here was this little girl that had one of these triangular steel sleds, like, I don't know what you called them, but they had handles you could hang on to, and they were kind of come to a point in the front, and they were all pressed out of metal. And she had been off of her sled and was pulling it with a rope, and they hit that head on. My brother, that metal sled hit him right in the face and knocked some of his teeth out. So, that was a pretty bad incident. And luckily he recovered okay. He still has all of his teeth today. But when you went down there after a Sunday afternoon, after everybody went home, it was inevitable. You could always go down that hill and find patches of blood on that hill where people got hurt or injured. Now, within the past, I'd say the past 10 years, maybe 15 years or more, they've shut that hill down, because there were some very serious incidents there where people were seriously injured, and they thought it was best. And I'm sure there were lawsuits to the park district and whatever. So they just shut the hill down. No more sled riding there. Not allowed to sled ride on that hill. But boy, do I have a lot of memories of that over the years. Well, I for one will be more than happy when winter is done and over with. We still have another week or so of this month to go, January, and then we got all of February to go through, and then probably at least the first half of March too. So we're not out of the ballpark yet. We could still have some pretty major snows. I can still end up out snow blowing or shoveling snow or whatever, and I'll probably have to go out and cut some more firewood before it's all said and done too. Well, guys, thanks for all your support. Love your comments. Leave your comments down below for me. Thanks for your subscriptions, for subscribing to my channel, and hit that thumbs up button for me, please. I would really appreciate that. You guys are all in my prayers as usual. Until next time, I'll catch you later.